So negotiations with Iran could be nearing a breaking point, as President Trump says, Tehran, they're running on fumes.
So it comes as Iran claims an attack overnight on a U.S. airbase in the Gulf region.
And Madeleine Rivera is live at the White House this morning with the latest for us. Hey, Maddie.
Hi, good morning, guys. Well, over the weekend, President Trump said a deal with Iran was largely negotiated. Now he says talks aren't quite there yet, but he still says an agreement is within reach.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes.
Perhaps complicating matters this morning, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it targeted a U.S. airbase in what CENTCOM calls an egregious ceasefire violation. And CENTCOM says Iran launched a ballistic missile toward Kuwait that was successfully intercepted by Kuwaiti forces. Iran calls it retaliation after U.S. forces shot down 5 Iranian one-way attack drones over the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. says it also hit an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas before it could launch a 6th drone. Both nations are warning of more aggressive action if necessary. President Trump is threatening Iran and Oman if they strike a deal to control the Strait of Hormuz as well. And he's brushing off concerns that he's facing political pressure from the midterms, maintaining Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says they'll see if they can make progress in the coming days.
Now, the president's preference, Mr. President, your preference is told us repeatedly, as always, to negotiate these things and to figure out if you can have agreements. Diplomacy is always the first option. And we continue to work on that through your envoys, Mr. Woodcoff and Kushner and others, the vice president, who've been very involved. And if there's an agreement to be made, we want that to be made.
And regarding Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, the president says he's not comfortable with Russia or China taking it. Lawrence Ainsley and Brian.
Thanks so much, Maddie. Appreciate it.
Of course.
So they got 1,000, we shoot something about 1,000 pounds of uranium. What's going to happen to it? Number one, it's going to be hard to excavate, as you were telling me, and Derek Van Orden, congressman from Wisconsin, former Navy SEAL, he said, if we got it, we can get it. We have an operation to do it. But there's going to be casualties because you have to secure the area. There's drones that could come in.
And you'd have to find it. It's buried.
Yeah. Just so we're clear, that is what the president is weighing right now.
Yeah.
When it comes to this is pretty much public information at this point. When it comes to us going out there and doing it ourselves, we may lose some guys.
No, nobody wants that.
That's not an easy decision as the commander-in-chief to make.
Yeah.
And, everyone wants to say, okay, he's caving. No, he's not caving. He's looking at every decision and dealing with it with the weight of the world on him on this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough position, but and this ceasefire is hanging on by a thread. We have to keep defending ourselves. As we've been reporting, as Maddie was just reporting, these new strikes were targeting these Iranian drone operations. They were trying to shoot a 5th drone, and we had to attack that launch pad as well. But the cabinet meeting yesterday, Trump was dismissing the Iranian state TV. You know that they lie to the people, and they are telling the people that we want to restore, that they are restoring, that Iran is restoring the commercial shipping in the Straits, with Iran and Oman managing the traffic. We know that's not true. They're also reporting that the U.S. will withdraw military forces from the immediate vicinity. We know that's not true. The White House is saying this report is a complete fabrication. The U.S. military, this will make you feel better, we have 15,000 troops enforcing a blockade in Iran. We have thousands of additional forces at these bases in Qatar, in the UAE, and in Bahrain. We also have naval vessels there. We always show that map of all the ships that we have in the area. Thousands of sailors, thousands of Marines are there defending the Strait so that Iran does not control it.
All right. So we're going to talk about this throughout the day, and obviously things are going to be fluid. And I think the president, what you're reading, is different from what the president's talking to the negotiators about. Right. So that is what the Supreme Leader is saying and other people, hardliners, and they're saying, but when the foreign minister and the president and other people get on the phone with the president,
they change the
tone. It's a totally different tone. So that's why the president says, what am I doing here? We know one thing. There's only one person speaking for the president, because he speaks all day.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.